Perhaps the strangest iteration of dueling culture took place in pre-war Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. A bizarre form of academic fencing took over the German middle and upper classes in the late 19th century by the name of Mensur. Mensur was not about settling a debate. It wasn't even about winning or losing. It was simply about not being a wimp.
A duel fought not to kill, but to slash the opponent's face.
Unlike the dueling Frenchman, there was no fancy footwork involved here. In fact, there was no footwork at all. The ultimate goal was to neither flinch nor dodge, no matter if that razor-sharp steel of your opponent was heading directly for your cheek, forehead, or anywhere else. The only facial protection they wore were strange metal goggles with wire meshes on them to protect their eyes. Mensur was all about being as stoic as possible and demonstrating your manhood. In fact, if one of the combatants so much as flinched to avoid a strike, then the match was immediately halted and he was branded a coward. It was utterly mental. But if you were brave enough to undergo this torture, you could potentially walk away with the ultimate European status symbol, a Schmiss, literally meaning bragging scar.
Ah, this lucky lad is the happy winner of the contest, while his opponent, unmarked, must fight again.
These wounds, once healed into long, jagged marks across the cheeks or forehead, became badges of honor amongst Germany's student elite. In fact, so desirable was the Schmiss that some students hired surgeons to make careful incisions on their cheeks if their dueling bouts failed to leave a sufficiently distinguished mark. And some just razored their own faces. Others, as Mark Twain once noted with bemusement, if they only received a small wound, they would mess with it by pulling it apart or pouring red wine into it, so the wound looked uglier when it healed. The Mensur was so ingrained in German culture that most of the country's military officers, judges, and politicians bore these scars. Have you ever noticed that an overwhelming number of famous Nazi officers from history seemed to sport Bond villain-esque facial scars? Well, they weren't won on the battlefield, but during Mensur matches in their university days. The government ultimately outlawed the practice, but like any good outlawed tradition, Mensur went underground, with secret duels taking place in safe houses and remote barns under the watchful eyes of fraternity alumni.
These young men are members of a secret dueling society. They are college students of the new Germany, a Germany of pride and accomplishment, of shame and penance, a nation that made lampshades of human skin.
As Mensur demonstrates, by the late 19th century, dueling had kind of gotten out of hand.